Well, I was going through YouTube's free movies today for random YouTube movie time, and I stumbled upon Big Fat Liar, and I'm like, oh, sweet, some Y2K throwback. Let's have some fun. And unfortunately, all I found was Scandal. As to whether or not you know the entirety of this scandal, I don't know. It is something I think we could have all inferred, but in case you don't know, let me lead you down this path. Mostly because I was getting ready to review this movie, but now that I know the information, I don't know what to do with it. But I don't want to say, I lost like an hour and a half of my life. Which I don't know, I could probably say that anyway because it's not very good. Like even on a Y2K nostalgic throwback, it's not very good. Like, do y'all remember the scene in The Cat in the Hat where the cat makes an inside joke about advertising for Universal Studios because The Cat in the Hat is a Universal movie? Yeah, that's like 99.999% of this movie. So like Big Fat Liar came out in 2002. And most of the movie is shot on the Universal lot. Like they're showing the Universal tour studios, where you get on the little tram and it takes you around. And like they put the Psycho House in the background for one scene. And then they're going into the props room and it's all the leftover props for Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas that came out the year before. My guess is they had just finished wrapping that movie when they started on this, or maybe they were working on it at the same time. But all of that's in there. A whole bunch of shit left over from The Mummy Returns. And I know it was The Mummy Returns because The Mummy Returns came out the same year. And some Jurassic Park dinosaurs. Which, if I'm not mistaken, they were shooting part 3 around the same time. Because I think that came out in 03 or 04. But I digress. I'll go ahead and tell you what it's about real quick. So, like, there's this one kid who wrote a paper for class so he doesn't fail, but he left it in the back of a limo that hit him. And this, like, film producer, who's actually a really mediocre fucking film producer, stole it to make a movie. And all the kid wants is, like, this guy to call his dad and let him know, hey, he actually wrote it. But as the producer, who is Paul Giamatti, refuses to call his dad, he makes his life hell. And seemingly takes down movie producer. The end. Now keep all that in mind because I find it now to be a very interesting premise. And here's why. And like I said, this is something I probably should have thought about. However, because it's distributed through Universal and not Paramount or Viacom or any of that, I never gave it any thought. This whole thing fell into the hands of a very sick individual. And if you're wondering why that's important, here's 2 pieces of information. One, the entire screenplay is done by said sick individual, and half of the story. Which is why I find it interesting because the whole idea of the story is a kid taking down a film producer. And this man doesn't do anything without ill intent, so I want to know what fucking movie producer he was trying to allude to. What's more, this other gentleman named Brian Robbins, who is seen working with one of 2, so 50% of the storyboard, is done by a gentleman who is currently taking over as one of the 3 presidents of Paramount, as per last week. And has been the president of Nickelodeon since 2018. See that part? I don't know if everybody knows that, or maybe it flew under the radar, but it was reported by the Wall Street Journal and the Los Angeles Times. I don't know if that's important. I just find it very, very interesting that these 2 work together very closely. So that does put me in a shit predicament about rating this one. But for the sake of me not wasting 90 minutes of my life, I figured I would give you all the information that I now have, and you can do with it what you will. So for the sake of the argument, this is getting a 0 out of 10 and a full solid do not recommend. I'm sorry, I don't know what else to do here. So, okay, bye.